Trying to conceive and feeling overwhelmed and confused with unhelpful information and advice? This podcast is for you. Welcome to Don't Tell Me to Relax. I'm your host, Hannah Pern, a fertility acupuncturist and passionate advocate for better fertility education and support. Our aim is to empower you with information to support your fertility journey and provide a community for connection with people who get where you're at. If you'd like to join us or work with us in clinic in London or across the UK, all the information is in the show notes at the end.
AcuPips sponsors Don't Tell Me to Relax. If you're looking for a way to naturally balance your body, calm your mind and relieve anxiety, then AcuPips has the answer. AcuPips is the UK's original ear seed company, founded by traditional acupuncturist Zoe Young. Ear seeds are small seeds or metal balls attached to an adhesive and placed on pressure points on the ear in specific combinations, creating balance within the body. We like to call it healing jewellery. Discover more today at acupips.com and use code RELAX for 20% off site-wide. AcuPips. Modern healing, ancient practice.
Hello and welcome to today's episode. We are looking at the emotional impact of miscarriage today and where to go for further support. And I am joined by the lovely Carly Garrett, who is a fertility reflexologist, coach and a miscarriage doula. Many of you will know Carly as she runs Tea and Chat, the support group that we have in our community. So Carly, welcome back and thank you for being here. Can you introduce yourself and tell us about your work?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Carly. As you say, I'm a fertility reflexologist, coach, and more recently, a miscarriage doula. So the work that I do with my clients is very much based around, as far as the miscarriage doula work, is very much based around emotional and practical support when a client is either experiencing a miscarriage or afterwards. And so I have clients that come to me, as I'm sure you do as well, actually, if they've discovered they had a miscarriage and they're going through either the waiting or medical management or so forth. So I have clients that come to me for reflexology for that as well. And then, so me giving them support around that really tough time. And then afterwards, the emotional support, working on processing all of the emotions, having somebody to talk to, having somebody to talk it through and talk through the experience that they've had. And then moving on from that, if they are wanting to try to conceive again or they're in an early pregnancy, being there and supporting them then as well.
And how does that work, Holly? Is that online work? Is it talking? Is it exercises? What are the kind of practical steps that you take in that situation?
So it could be a mix of both. So I have clients that come to me if they are local, or we can do it. Mostly it's online, to be honest with you. And then it's to be honest with you, it's exactly what they need at that moment in time. So whether they need some guidance, whether they need somebody to, I'm never going to tell somebody what to do, but whether they want to bounce some ideas to work out what the best route is for them. Whether they need some tools to help calm their nervous system, as with most of the work that I do, and it kind of goes back to the nervous system and calming it so that you can be coming from a better place. So whether I give them some tools and techniques to help with that, a lot of the time it's just listening, because it can be a really, really isolating time. And so to be there, to have somebody to talk to, and then I'm available around the sessions as well. So I'm always very much, if you want to just offload, just send me an email or send me a WhatsApp and let's chat it through. So just literally being there to support and hold their hand, really, walking through that time.
Yeah, because it is such a difficult time. So what are the most common responses that you see in people after they've had a miscarriage, and how do you help them to navigate those feelings, because they are overwhelming, those feelings? And so what are the feelings, and what do people do?
Absolutely. So, mostly would be grief. So, it's a loss, and when we talk about the work that I do, it ranges from really, really early losses to late losses, and so all of that, there's grief, and that's huge, and so it's about, um, talking it through, and a lot of the time, especially with, um, early losses, it's a case of that they shouldn't be feeling in that way. "Oh, I shouldn't be feeling in this way because, I was only so many weeks." And so it's giving space, and actually you need time to grieve at whatever stage. And, so grief is huge, and actually even explaining, um, talking about grief and talking about how it's huge and it really can shape your life moving forward in how you view the rest of your life in lots of ways. Um, but you won't be feeling how you're feeling right now forever.
Mm.
And I always like to use, I've got a great analogy for clients where I kind of say it's always as if you can picture a bookshelf and you've got a great big book on there, one book, and that's grief. And at the moment, that's all you can see. And as we go through life, we want to be adding some more books on there. We want to be adding more books, more memories, some plants, some photographs. And then with time, that book's still there. And it might not just be one book, it might be a few books.
Mm.
Um, that book of grief or many books of grief might still be there. But over time, we are adding more joy to it.
Mm.
Um, so grief obviously is huge and in different kind of different forms, and then we have guilt. There's always, if only I didn't do that, or if I did do that, and the guilt that comes around that. So we can spend time talking about that and trying to um, reframe that as well, and looking at it from different angles. Shame, sadness, anger. I have ladies that come to me that haven't always been treated particularly well
Mm.
during their experience. Um, and that's really, really hard as well. I hear awful stories of women being put, having a loss and being on a labour ward, for example. And it's all extra layers on top of it. So there's a lot. The reality is, whatever you're feeling, that's valid, and that is okay to feel that, and you need to feel it because we need to be feeling it in the moment. But let's do some work together and let's process that to move you forward.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing to talk about, because, as you say, that idea of blame and guilt is huge, isn't it? Because
Mm.
we have lots of people who ask questions around, was it because I was drinking coffee? Is it because I went to an exercise class? Is it because I forgot to take a medication for one day? There's so many questions that go around. And I think when you talk about that and you can express it and you have somebody giving you that reassurance, it means that you're not carrying that as much. You might still be carrying it because it might take you a long time to believe that actually there was nothing that you could have done. But
Mhm.
the more you can discuss that, the easier it is to hold or to carry with you without kind of feeling the guilt or the shame or the blame.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I was just thinking then about this idea that we have this tradition in pregnancy around not discussing it until we're 12
Yeah.
weeks. And I don't know what you think, but I think that really contributes to all those feelings that happen, that we don't discuss it. If there is a loss, it's not shared. It's that whole don't talk about it, don't share your pregnancy with anybody. Like, can you just unpick, like, where does that come from, and why do we still hold that up in society as a thing that we do when somebody gets pregnant?
Yeah. And that's huge, and I think it's very much from self-preservation, isn't it? And that whole, well, I don't want to announce I'm pregnant and then have to tell everybody. But where I would come from here is, if you do, and this comes up quite a lot when I work with clients in early pregnancy after loss, that whole kind of, who do I tell, who do I not tell? And you might not want to feel like you want to announce it on Instagram like you did the first time, or you might not want to kind of go big, but I think it's really good to have a network of people that you do tell, that you that can be there for you if you need them. And because the reality is, if you do experience loss, you do need people around you to support you. It's really, really important not to, in my view, not to do it on your own. And so, yeah, I don't know where that originally came from, but I think that whole, and excuse me, you do have, uh, I've had ladies that have had a loss and haven't wanted to announce until they're 20 weeks for subsequently. And you've got to protect your heart. You have got to do what's right for you, and you've really, really got to protect your heart. But I would question having somebody around you. I've worked with clients that it's just me, them, and their partner that know that they're pregnant, or they're trying to conceive, as I'm sure you have done. So, yeah, it's my question always would be, if something does happen, how would you feel about doing this alone? Would you, is there anybody that you feel that you can share with, even if, have you got any friends that you can reach out to? It's, loss isn't talked about enough. 1 in 4 pregnancies in the UK end in loss, unfortunately. And so the reality is, a lot of women are kind of touched by this, and live with it, and it needs to be talked about more
Yeah, because
than
so
it is.
many people are carrying this on, they're doing this on their own, and
Mm.
they're alone in their grief.
Hmm.
I worked with somebody yesterday who said that she was at work and she just carried on working,
Yeah, yeah,
which is something that we hear a lot, isn't it?
yeah.
Is that they're like,
Absolutely.
nobody at work knew. I don't want my work to find out, so I just carried on.
Yeah, yeah. It's that, it's so, oh, it's just so hard, because we're kind of striving for women are kind of striving for equality, but the reality is, women still don't feel that they can put their hand up and say, I want a family
Yeah.
within the workplace. And that's just so, it's just crazy. It's just awful, because it's just so unfair that she should have been packing up, going straight home, and looking after herself. Because also, we're here talking about the mental load of it, the mental load, but physically,
Mm.
when you're having a loss, what your body's going through is huge. And so
Yeah.
you need to care for it, and you need to love it and tend to it, which you don't want to do, because at that moment in time, your body's failed you, and you kind of, there's so much disconnect. There will be so much disconnect there, because why has your body done this? And which isn't the case a lot
Mm.
of the, so that's really, really huge. And it's just so sad. But I'm afraid we still are completely living in a world where women can't stand up and say that.
Mm. So what would you say to people who are feeling alone in their grief? How would you suggest they reach out?
So you can come along to the community, to the Don't Tell Me to Relax community, and put a post up there, which is wonderful, isn't it? It's such a wonderful space. You can just, if you can, just try speaking to somebody about it, and just trying to open up the conversation. and hopefully, you know, and if you can't find that within your network, because I have clients that come to me that are very much, oh, I don't just want to put it all on my husband.
Mm.
They're grieving too, aren't they? So it's and I can completely get that. But equally, if you've experienced loss, you need to have some support somewhere along the line. And um, so if you can't find it within your network, then reach out and, you know, come into our network, come along to my tea and chat sessions. Just try and reach out to you, to me, to somebody that you feel that can support you.
Yeah. And when it comes to, you know, I think on the Tommy's website, they have a statistic saying that 50% of the UK will know somebody who has experienced loss.
Mm-hmm.
So how can partners, friends, family members support people they know going through a miscarriage? What advice would you have for those people around that person? Because often when things happen to friends and families, as observers, we want to do something, but we also, as you know, as Brits, feel a bit, I don't know what it is, we find it difficult to reach out. You know, sometimes we can feel awkward, we don't want to say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to people who know somebody going through this?
Just to be there for them, just to say, I'm here. I'm not going to give you any unsolicited advice. I am not going to try and fix things for you. I'm here to listen to you. Can I make you dinner? Can I take you out for a coffee? Can I take you out for a walk? Just be there and be accessible to them. Remember, try and remember dates as well,
Mm.
because it can be, those dates are always there in the lady's head that has had a loss. You know, the date of the loss, the due date, when they would have been starting school, all of these dates, and that will always stay with them. So if you can try and remember just little things, you make a note in your diary, and so you can always send a text on. I'm not saying remember every date, but just kind of talk about it. Let them, give them space to talk about it. Don't be scared to talk about it, and sit there with them in the pain if that's what they need, instead of trying to, oh, let's kind of try and make all this better, and don't worry, it won't happen again, and you know, yeah. Just be there.
Yes, because we all know the sentences that people say that are really unhelpful. You know, um, well, at least you got pregnant,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can try again. All of those
at least it
sentences,
happened early.
yeah, that
Yep.
are really just awful. I
Yeah,
think people are really aware of not saying those sentences sometimes, to the point that then they don't say anything because they're so scared of getting it wrong.
yep,
And then you know, a gap appears. Also, the other thing that I would say is that you might get in contact with people and then you don't hear back from them, and you have to kind of keep trying, just saying, just checking in, I'm still here
yeah.
if you need me, because there might be a time when they just don't want to have any communication, and that might go on for quite some time.
Yeah, and this is this is most people, I think, have been affected by grief somewhere in their life. You know, if they haven't, then they're extremely lucky. But
Yeah.
this is grief, and this is the loss of. Uh, you know, it might, if you've lost a grandparent even, or a parent, but this is the loss of their baby, their dreams, all of the milestones that they'd planned out in life. And I think it's easy to not see it in that way.
Yeah.
And also they might also very much be going through, as I said, you know, that transition with their baby, that if it was a later loss, that they might have had to give birth. Well, they would have, if it was a later loss, they would have had to give birth to that baby. And so they've got all the postpartum stuff going on as well. And so just being aware of that, and being there. And like you say, just sending the odd message every now and again, just go, hi, how you doing? Or I thought of you, or I've got a client that I worked with a couple of years ago, and which she always used to talk about her son and about a rainbow. And I was literally driving down the A3 last week and I saw a rainbow. And as soon as I stopped, I just sent her a message and just said, oh, I just saw a rainbow. Made me think of his name, who I'd never met before. And but he obviously had really, really touched my heart. And then that got a conversation going.
Yeah.
And I think that meant a lot to her. But for me, it was just that instant. That's what I saw. That's what I didn't put any thought into it. That's just what I did. But I think little things like that can really touch,
Yeah.
touch people's heart. And I think that is those little touch-ins that he isn't forgotten. And yeah, so I think that helps, and that's nice.
And what about advice around taking time off work, trying to start again? Often people are asked the question around, when should I try again? What are your thoughts around that, or around how much time to take out or time to take off?
Well, the time to take off, unfortunately, unless if the loss is before 24 weeks, you only get 2 weeks off. So do you need to be signed off by the GP? That would be a question, because that is a possibility. So and then it's what you need. How much time do you need yourself to take to feel like you want to step back into work? And for some, being at work is great, especially now with kind of post-COVID work, being able to work from home and so forth. It can keep you busy, because there's only so much sitting around that you can actually do, isn't there? So, do you want to start engaging your brain? Is there speak to HR? Is there a way of integrating you back in so you don't have to go back to full time? That could be a possibility. And then when you're ready, I have clients that that's it, next month I want to be back on it again. I have other clients that want to take time, and that also depends, if we're talking about having a few losses, if we're talking about later losses, if any investigative work needs to be done in the meantime, and that can slow things down. It might be a case of, yes, I want to try again right now, but it's their third loss, and so I'd really like to be talking through what the options are,
Mm.
and whether some testing is a good idea
And
or
that's
not.
such a difficult thing, isn't it? That whole having to go down the rabbit hole of research and finding out information, and there's so many different paths and avenues that people can go on, and people want to find answers, and people
Mm,
want to take some control back, but also they're dealing with this huge amount of grief at the same time, and it becomes a lot to carry and hold, because there's so many different things going on there. It's like the need for information, but also dealing with grief and trying to get through life. It's people find themselves feeling very overwhelmed very quickly. I think taking some time to just look after yourself for some people can be really helpful, because I think there's often an urgency to fix things or do something, which is
absolutely.
completely understandable.
Yeah, yeah. That whole find the answer again, isn't it? And this goes back to trying to conceive. We're couples that are kind of in the trenches of try and conceive, and that kind of actively doing that. It takes its toll, and in some ways you are taking some control by doing that, and that can be really, really helpful. But in other ways, if you are not processing the emotions and you are just kind of shoving them all down, they are going to bob back up again at some point. So if you can try and, go through a bit of a grieving process, and I would always encourage my ladies to, how are we going to honour your baby? What are we going to do to honour them, whether that's, for some it might be a service, for others it might be plant a tree, for others it might be to there's a lovely lady that does beautiful jewellery for the number of weeks that you were. Let's honour them, and then let's start working on all of the emotions that came with that, and then we can start thinking about moving forward, because otherwise it's just going to come up and bite you at some point later down the line.
And we were talking about it before about the tea and chat that you do, obviously. And there are lots of other community groups, online community groups, in persons. We've got amazing organisations like the Worst Girl Gang.
Mhm.
We've got things like some organisations like SANS. I know they do in-person meetups. So where do you stand on that? I assume it's, if they feel like good places to go for you, then there is something very powerful. We've talked about it before, in that finding people who've been through a similar experience, so not the same, because no two experiences are the same, but finding people who really understand what you've been going through because they have been through a similar loss, can be really, really helpful for that validation. Because if you're speaking to a room of people who've never had a miscarriage, if all your friends have never had a miscarriage and their fertility journeys have been straightforward, it can be very difficult to get the right response or feel that people really understand what it is that you're going through. So finding those community spaces can be really powerful as part of your healing process.
Absolutely, hugely. And you're right, they do have support groups that you can go to, and also Tommy's has lots of information, Petals have lots of information. There's, there are a lot of charities out there that can really, really guide you and bring people together, and that sense of community. And I don't even think it needs to be that you need to feel that you're part of a huge community. It just needs to know that you've got someone, even if it's just one person that you kind of think, yeah, we get each other. They understand, as you said, no two stories are ever the same. So you get each other. How can we support each other going forward?
Yeah.
And again, wonderful friendships can come from things like that, from groups like that.
So Carly, you're going to be running talking of the groups, you're going to be doing a miscarriage tea and chat in the community for anybody who wants to come along for that. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about how it works, those kind of events? Because people might be listening thinking, oh, I don't know whether that's right for me. It can feel quite hard to go into a new space. So maybe if you can say a little bit about it, people might think whether it resonates with them.
Absolutely. So this will be our first group for loss. But if I talk about the fertility tea and chats that we've been running for over a year now, I think it might
Well
have even
over a
been
year,
about a
yeah.
year and a half, mightn't it? And they're really, really wonderful spaces. And I think every single lady that's come along has said to me that they felt really nervous about coming, but they're really glad that they did. So it's a wonderful space just to come in, and I do ask for people to have their cameras on, because I don't like the idea of other people talking about something personal and not being able to see who's there, if that makes sense. But equally, if you come and you don't want to talk, you don't have to. You can just listen, and you can feel part of uh, a group that gets it. And so, yeah, if you would like to come along, please do. Feel free to message me about it before if you have any questions, and just come and share space for an hour. I think last time we went on for nearly 2 hours, with women that completely understand how you're feeling.
Yes. And that's going to be Wednesday, the 18th of June,
Absolutely, yes.
8 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. And we will put all the details of the miscarriage support organisations that we've referred to, all of the details and the links to those organisations, so you can reach out to them and have a look at them, see if they resonate with you, will be on the end of this podcast. Carly, any final words that you would like to say to somebody who may be listening to this, who's had a loss and thinking, I don't know what comes next. I can't see a way forward. Any kind of final message to say?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, it's not your fault. And this comes up so often, so often. And if you start being aware of the voice in your head and what it's saying to you, and question it, and maybe see if you can change that voice as if you're speaking to a friend. Because the things that you'll be saying to yourself, there's no way that you'd ever say that to somebody that you love and you care about. So just stopping and thinking about that, and reaching out to somebody. Please don't go through this on your own. Reach out, as I said, reach out to a friend. Just send a message to somebody that you feel that would understand. Do you want to meet up for a walk, or come along to our group? Reach out in the community, speak to one of the charities, send me a message. Let's chat. I'm always happy to chat to people through Instagram or Mighty Networks, and sending lots of love, because it's what you're going through is so tough, and you've got to give yourself time to come out the other side.
Mm. I think also, just listening to you speak then, I was thinking about I was just going back to when we were discussing this idea of not talking about it for 12 weeks. And that whole shrouding early pregnancy in secrecy really does give adds to those feelings of, well, if you have a loss before 12 weeks, then it was kept secret, then there's a lack of validation to how you're feeling about
Yeah.
the loss.
Mm-hmm.
By saying, well, it was a secret, so it doesn't really count, and therefore to be upset is not really appropriate.
Yeah.
It's really important to know that your feelings are completely valid.
Completely. Whatever stage of pregnancy that you have that loss, your feelings are 100% valid. They are your feelings, and however you feel about that is your truth. And you've got to it doesn't actually matter what anybody else thinks, to be honest with you, but if you can voice those feelings. If you can't voice it, maybe get them down on paper. Just write and get it out. But you're right, it's that whole kind of keeping it hidden, and then the shame that's hidden behind that, and the grief and the anger and but I didn't tell anybody in the first place, so I can't go telling them now. I didn't tell them the good news, I can't go telling them the bad news. And then you're going round and round in circles, and then the next thing you know, you haven't told anybody, and you're just living with it. And oh, well, it was early. That whole kind of, oh, it was early, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It really, really, really does matter. And at any stage, I can't say that enough, at any stage of loss, it really, really matters. And it's huge. It's grief, it's trauma. And that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And to give yourself the grace for that, and the compassion for that, and the love, and that disconnect that you will probably be having with your body, because you're seeing it as it's failed you.
Mm.
Aren't you? It's a case of my body has failed me, and that needs talking through.
Yeah. Exactly. And we will there's also BICA is the charity for, not the charity, the organisation for counselling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
For that specialise in fertility. We've got a lot of good resources that we will put on here, and hopefully we have really amplified why it's so important to talk about this, and find your person, group, connection, whether it's online, through a network, a friend, a partner, wherever, find those people to talk to.
Yeah. And I think, I'm glad you said that about BICA, because, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a psychotherapist. And if that is the specific help that you need, then that's where you need to go. I like to support my ladies in the way that I do. And so if you feel that you need that extra support, then that's the path path you need to take.
Yeah.
But just have a look through the resources that you're going to add onto here and see what you like, see what feels right, what feels comfortable for you to do. And you might start with reaching out and going along to a group session, and then you might feel that you need more support from that. And where can you get that support from?
Thank you, Carly. As always, it's lovely to speak to you. I hope this episode has been helpful. As we said, all the information is on the show notes. Take good care of yourself until next time. Thanks, Carly.
No worries. Bye-bye.
We hope you have found this helpful. If you'd like more on fertility education, please see our Teaching to Conceive free course linked at the end of the show. You'll also find the link to join our community. For more personalised fertility support, you can work with us one-to-one in clinic and online. You can book a discovery call to find out more.